Toni Morrison's Sula is a beautiful piece of work. Let's get into it. Chapter 1923 of Sula explores loss, regret, numbness, feminism, and revenge all in one. The chapter starts out with Hannah, daughter of Eva, asking her, "Did you ever love us?" A simple question, but a question that needs to be asked nonetheless, because there was a lack of verbal affirmation and affection between Eva and her three children, Pearl, Plum, and Hannah. Eva responds in a way that I feel like is shown in a lot of black media, which is, first, she responds in an abnormal way, I'll say. She goes, "No, not in the way that you thought, not in the way that you would think, not in the way that a mother normally would love her children." Then she goes into the stereotypical part where she goes, "But how could you ask that? You remember this? You remember that? You remember what I did for you? You remember the motherly duties that I was doing?" And I think this is interesting because it's happened so much in media that I've become a little desensitized to it. Not to say that Eva's right or Hannah's right. I just think it's a common trope that happens when the relationship between a mother and child is not the best. And instead of really tackling it the right way and talking about where each went right or wrong, it kind of just goes into, this is what I did for you and you be grateful. Eva's main points are, how could I not? How could you wonder? Those days when it was just me, you, your siblings, and two beats in the house. Remember what I did? Remember when we went hungry? Hannah asks her question that has remained since childhood though. But how come you never played with us, mama? And I think that's really powerful because I feel like at the end of the day, every child needs affection in multiple ways. Not just one way, not just in the necessities, but also just in the wants and needs and the attention. Eva responds by continuing to reprimand her and remind her of everything that the family was going through. Remind her of when her sister was throwing up worms, when nobody had anything to eat, and how the fact that she's alive and healthy and tall and a grown woman in this Jim Crow era is a testament to the fact that Eva did love her. Hannah then asked the final burning question. Then why did you kill Plum? Eva, in what I believe to be a really numb and non-human response, recants how Plum, the war veteran son of hers that was also grown, just couldn't survive as an adult. She talked about how she carried him for 9 months, fed him, bathed him, clothed him, did everything. But as an adult, there's just no space for him in her room. I think that's really interesting because Plum was a fully healthy man, completely capable of, theoretically being an adult, went to war, came back obviously different, obviously dealing with PTSD. I think they talked about alcoholism, but I'd never quite heard the metaphor of, my son wanted to climb back into my womb. And then Eva takes the extreme route and she comes to his bed in the night. She holds him a little bit, kind of rocks him like a baby. And the next thing you know, she douses him in kerosene and he's up in flames. And it's really interesting because I never thought that it would get brought up again when I read it, because this happened in the previous chapter. I thought they were just gonna go past it and, Toni Morrison fashion. But for Eva to stand 10 toes on it and for her to really just say, I'm a grown woman and I can't be taking care of another grown man is really interesting. And I think there's a level of numbness that I described it as, but at the end of the day, it's not numbness. I think it's just foresight and awareness and stubbornness. But there's also a realistic notion to that of, as a black woman, she's gonna be tied to a man all her life at this point in time, and she just wants to reject all of that. So I think it's really powerful from a feminism perspective, and I think I understand who Eva is a little more because of this. In the final portion of the chapter, Hannah ends up catching herself on fire. And for the first time in the book, I see Eva in genuine shock and horror. Despite having one leg and being a senior citizen, Eva throws herself out the window in an effort to rescue her daughter. She's crawling, blood on her face after falling in a bush. One leg and all, she's crawling to save her daughter who's burning and who's at this point unrecognizable. Unfortunately, Eva ends up on a stretcher along with her deceased daughter. Although still alive, she can recognize one thing, that her daughter is no more. And you feel the pain for Eva. I think you understand the juxtaposition just between her love for Eva and kind of the lack of love for Plum. And I'm not saying this in a way in which, because Plum is a man, that she loved him less, but just more so like the way she fought for Hannah and the way she was really pained and put her life on the line to rescue her. I think it was really unfortunate, and it's also like just a juxtaposition between two of her children dying in the exact same way, except you watch one die and the other you fight tooth and nail to rescue. And it's just that mother's intuition that everyone respects, and that makes the situation so much more dire and disheartening. At the end of the chapter, Eva's recovering in the hospital, and one thing she recalls is that her granddaughter Sula was watching the whole thing. Not in the way that she didn't want to help on purpose, but the idea is that Sula was interested. That, I don't know what to say. I'm only a couple chapters into this book, but the ideas that are roaming around, the numbness between Eva, the numbness between Hannah at times, the numbness between Sula is a recurring theme, and I'm excited to see how the rest of this book turns out. For those of you who just joined, I hope that you can take something from this. Toni Morrison is an amazing author, and there are lifelong lessons that we can learn from her. Now, what those lessons are, I'm not quite sure. That's why we have the rest of the book to figure out. But I thank you all for joining this journey with me. I hope y'all enjoy.